Yes, we have 9 items on the agenda today. Would you like to start with a general public or public comment? Oh, yes, with the roll call. Thank you. Councilmember Price? Councilmember Buscaino? Here. And Councilmember Rodriguez? I know she was here a second ago. Would you like to wait just a moment until she returns? Let's wait a moment and see if we can have her join us. Excellent. Why don't you inform us of the public comment opportunities? Okay. For the members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda, they should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-177-1578 and then press pound. Press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted to the meeting, press *9 to request to speak. Yes, we do have a quorum. All right. Then let's take our first public comment.
Okay, speaker, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Speaker, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Speaker 2772, please state your name and items you'd like to speak on. So moving on. Speaker, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Speaker, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Speaker, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Speaker, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hola, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes. Deme un segundo. Do we have a translator?
Okay. Yes, okay.
Hello, do we have a translator?
Okay, mi nombre es Pedro Varías.
Hi, my name is Pedro Varías.
Y soy vendedor ambulante en el área de Valle.
I'm a street vendor in the area of the valley.
Estoy llamando porque...
¿Qué número va a platicar de qué caso?
El 1 y el 2.
Ok, le voy a dar 2 minutos.
Ya estoy llamando porque apoyamos que el código municipal se cambie para extender el costo de permisos de venta hasta julio 1 del 2021.
Yes, I'm calling because we would like to support the initiative of expanding the municipal code in order to be extended to July 1st.
Pero queremos sugerir que haya no costo del permiso hasta finales de este año.
But we would like to suggest that there would not be a cost for the permit until the end of the year.
Muchos de nosotros vendemos, no hemos vendido por varios meses.
Many of us are street vendors and we have not been able to sell for many months.
Se debe gastos, renta y nos gustaría ver un apoyo positivo de la ciudad.
We have many expenses and we would like to see positive support from the city.
El abogar por un permiso gratis hasta diciembre 31 ayudaría a miles de trabajadores ambulantes a conseguir sus permisos.
We would like to request a free permit until the end of December. In that way, you guys can help the street vendors to get the permit.
Y esos permisos nos ayudaría a trabajar y traería un alto al enforzamiento del BSS.
These permits will help us to work and is going to be a positive impact in our lives.
Por esto mi llamada es para que se introduzca un permiso gratis hasta el 31 de diciembre.
That's why I'm calling, because we would like to request a free permit until December 31st.
Y un enfoque a la educación de los vendedores y un alto al enforzamiento.
We would like to also request to focus the education of the street vendors and to strengthen the support that we are receiving.
Le queda un minuto para su para el segundo tema.
Ok, queremos un carro aprobado por el PPH, pero si ellos no invierten en el diseño, producción y distribución, no es justo que nos penalicen cuando nosotros queremos trabajar con la ley. Gracias.
We really want to follow the rules and have an investment with the DPH, but I think that you should invest in the design and distribution because it's not fair for us. Thank you.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, mi nombre es Claudia Moreno.
Hi, my name is Claudia Moreno.
Quiero hablar sobre el artículo 1 y 2.
I would like to speak about item number 1 and 2.
Le daremos un minuto para cada uno.
Ok, gracias.
Okay, thank you.
Estoy llamando. Ok.
Por favor,
¿Aló?
comience.
Sí, mi nombre es Claudia Moreno, soy vendedora ambulante.
Yes, hi, my name is Claudia Moreno and I'm a street vendor.
Estoy llamando porque necesitamos el apoyo para el código municipal.
And I'm calling because we are requesting your support for the municipal code.
Para el costo del permiso que se extienda
We are requesting to extend the cost of the permit
julio 1 del 2021.
until July 1st, 2021.
Queremos sugerir que no haya costo de permiso hasta finales de año.
We would like to suggest that there is no cost for the permit until the end of the year.
Muchos de nosotros los vendedores no hemos vendido ni trabajado, no tenemos dinero.
Many of the street vendors have not been able to sell and we have expenses and we don't have money.
Necesitamos el permiso gratis hasta para el 31 de diciembre.
We are requesting a free permit until the end of the year, December 31st.
No enforzamiento del BSS.
We're also requesting the strengthening of the BSS.
Necesitamos permisos para los parques y las vías públicas con los permisos de los carritos ambulantes.
We're also requesting a permit for the sidewalk on the street with the permits for street vendors.
El carro aprobado para la ciudad.
The car approved for the city.
Necesitamos un diseño de producción y distribución para que sea justo para todos los vendedores ambulantes.
We're also requesting a design of
Tiempo
distribution
empieza para el segundo
so
artículo.
it can be fair for all street vendors.
Ok, gracias.
Okay, thank you.
Speaker, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
En español, ¿qué les...
¿Me puede decir los artículos que está hablando?
Buenos días, mi nombre es Santa Huerta.
Good morning, my name is Santa Huerta.
El número es 1, 2.
I would like to talk about item number 1 and 2.
Ok, tienen un minuto para cada artículo.
Ok, mire, soy vendedora de Los Ángeles y estoy llamando porque aunque apoyamos al Código Municipal de que cambie el extensor de costo de permiso de la venta del 1 del 2021,
Hi, I'm
queremos
a street
sugerir
vendor. I'm requesting and I'm calling because we would like to an extension for the permit of the vending until July 1st, 2021.
Queremos sugerir que hagan no costo al permiso hasta finales de este año.
We would like to suggest a free permit until the end of the year.
Muchos de nosotros no hemos podido salir a vender por meses.
Many of us have not been able to sell for many months.
Debemos de renta, gas, luz y otras cosas.
We have to pay electricity, water, and other things.
Y nos gustaría ver su apoyo positivo para la ciudad.
And we would like to get a positive support for the city.
El abogar por un permiso gratis hasta diciembre del 31.
We would like to award for a free permit until December 31st.
Ayudaría a miles de trabajadores ambulantes a conseguir sus permisos.
Because that will help thousands of street vendors to get a permit.
Mediante estos nos ayudarían a trabajar y traer el alto al reforzamiento de la BSS.
In that way, you could help us to work and for the strengthening of the BSS.
Por eso, 1000 llamadas es para que introduzcan el permiso gratis para el 31 de diciembre y enfoquen la educación de los vendedores y un alto enforzamiento.
That is why I'm calling in order for you to extend the free permit until December 31st and the education for the street vendors and stop to the strengthening.
Queremos un carro apropiado por el Departamento de Salubridad, pero si ellos no invierten en el diseño y producción y distribución de estos carros, pues nosotros no tenemos para cuándo trabajar.
We agree with the health department, but if they do not invest in the design and construction of this resource, we are not going to be able to work.
Les agradezco mucho, por favor, que nos apoyen, porque de ustedes depende que todos nosotros los vendedores salgamos a vender, por favor.
I will be really thankful for your support because it depends on you.
Gracias.
We street vendors have our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gracias.
De nada.
You're welcome.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, ending with 4257, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Bueno,
Bueno, señora, por favor, ¿me puede dar su nombre y los artículos de que va a hablar?
Mi nombre es Merced Sánchez y voy a hablar con respecto a los artículos 1 y 2.
My name is
Okay,
Mercedes
Con
Sanchez,
relación al permiso gratis,
and I'm going to speak
estamos
about item
pidiendo-
1 and 2 in relation to the free permit we are requesting.
estamos pidiendo su apoyo para que este permiso sea gratis hasta el día 31 de diciembre.
We are requesting your support for this permit to be free until December 31st.
Estamos pidiendo al concilio que nos apoyen en la educación de cada vendedor para que podamos adquirir
Yes.
nuestros carros.
We're also requesting your support for the education for every street vendor. In that way, we can acquire our cars.
Pedimos también un alto al enforzamiento del BSS.
We're also requesting a stop for the strengthening of the BSS.
Necesitamos que la ciudad invierta en la aprobación de un carro con los planos, un buen proyecto que funcione tanto para lo que cumpla los lineamientos de salubridad como para el vendedor ambulante.
We are requesting your support for us to have a car that complies with the design and construction for the health department and also for the street vendors.
Pedimos que este carro sea a un precio justo, económico, porque debido a la pandemia, la mayoría de nosotros no hemos trabajado. El poco ahorro que teníamos para invertir en un carro se ha terminado en renta, en biles, en comida.
We request this car to be cost effective because we have not been able to work due to the pandemic. We have spent all our money in expenses like electricity, food, and other things.
Agradecemos a la presidenta del concilio y a todos. Sabemos que son personas justas y que nos ayudarán para que podamos tener un buen carro y poder trabajar conforme a la ley. Muchas gracias, señor.
We really thank you to the council chair because I know that he's a good person and he's going to be able to support us for us to have a car to continue working. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Gracias a usted.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller ending in 2772, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Okay, moving on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Merlin Alvarado,
¿Y qué son los artículos que va a hablar?
del 1 y el 2.
My name is Merlin Alvarado and I'm going to talk about item number 1 and 2.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Merlin Alvarado, soy una vendedora ambulante del área de Hollywood.
Good morning, my name is Merlin Alvarado. I'm a street vendor from Hollywood area.
Y estoy hablando para decir que aunque apoyamos la propuesta del concilio, quisiéramos pedir
And I'm calling because even though we support the motion of the council, we would like to request
que se pudiera trabajar en los 5 millones para infraestructura de los carritos con permiso para vendedores ambulantes.
that we could work with the $5 million in order for the construction and design of the vending cars for the street vendors.
Porque los vendedores estamos trabajando y no tenemos un carrito oficial porque no se ha hecho y estamos agarrando muchos tickets.
As we street vendors are working and we do not have an official car in order to work and we are getting a lot of tickets.
Queremos pedir apoyo en la infraestructura y que el BSS no nos hostigue tanto.
We would like to request a support about infrastructure that the SS does not bother us too much.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gracias a usted.
Caller, please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Hola, mi nombre es Ana.
Hi, my name is Ana.
Ana,
Soy una
¿qué
vendedora
artículos va a estar hablando?
del 1 y del 2.
¿De qué artículos va a hablar?
Del 1
Ok,
y
le
el
daré
2.
un minuto para cada uno.
I will be talking about
Sí,
item
un
number
minuto
1
para
and 2.
cada uno.
Estoy llamando porque aunque apoyamos que el código municipal se cambie para extender el costo de permiso de venta hasta julio 1 del 2021, queremos sugerir que no haya costo para el permiso hasta fines de este año, porque muchos vendedores hemos sido...
I'm calling because even though we support the proposal about getting a cost for the permit until July 1st, 2021, we are requesting that the permit will be free until the end of the year.
Muchos de nosotros los vendedores no hemos podido trabajar durante todos estos meses por la pandemia.
Many of the street vendors have not been able to work due to the pandemic.
Y también hemos estado teniendo muchos gastos acabando nuestros ahorritos en la renta, en la comida, y nos hemos quedado sin inversión, sin dinero para poder invertir en nuestro negocio.
We have also had many expenses in rent, food, so we are out of money in order to invest in our business.
Por eso pedimos el apoyo de todos ustedes para que nos ayuden a nosotros a poder invertir y comprar nuestros carritos aprobados. Queremos trabajar con el Departamento de Salud y queremos seguir las órdenes, pero también queremos y necesitamos un apoyo.
That's why we're requesting your support in order for you to help us to get our official cars. We are willing to work with the health department in order to comply with all the regulations, but we are requesting your support in order for us to invest in our business.
Me gustaría agregar también que no queremos ser víctimas de seguir agarrando tickets. Queremos que se nos eduque y que se nos apoye para que podamos invertir y seamos parte de la economía de la ciudad de Los Ángeles.
I would also like to tell you that I don't want to be anymore like a victim in getting tickets. We are requesting your support in order to be part of the economy of LA.
Gracias.
Thank you so much.
Aló. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Mi nombre es Caridad Vázquez.
Hi, my
¿En qué
name is
artículos
Mira
habla?
Vázquez.
Aló.
Aló, ¿cuáles artículos habla, señora?
Del 1 al 2.
Ok, le voy a dar un minuto para cada uno.
I will be talking about item number 1 and 2.
Por favor, comience.
¿Ya?
Por
¿Aló?
favor, comience. Sí, comience.
Pues antes que nada, yo soy vendedora ambulante y vendo comida y quiero decirle al Comité de Desarrollo que nos apoyen porque últimamente nos han quitado nuestras cosas porque no tenemos el permiso de la comida y yo vendo comida y yo quiero pedirles a ustedes que nos apoyen para poder trabajarlo con carritos legalmente, pero no tenemos dinero porque no se ha hecho el plano para los carritos.
Hi, before I start, I would like to say that I'm a street vendor and I really support the development committee in your proposal, but we are requesting to have the official cards in order for us to continue working as a street vendor, but we have not been able to have money due to the pandemic.
Y tengo 5 meses que no trabajo y yo enseño mi permiso supuestamente donde estoy parada y me dicen que no vale y nos quitan la comida y no es
And
justo
it's
que
been 5 months
estemos
since I do not work. I have been showing my permit when I'm standing with myself, but they say that is not right.
Por eso le pido al Comité de Desarrollo que nos apoyen a ayudarnos económicamente para que nos puedan ayudar el plano y la destrucción de nuestros carros para trabajar legalmente.
That's why I'm requesting to the development committee to have the design and construction of our cars in order for us to sell legally for all the street vendors that sell food.
Y gracias y por el apoyo y esperemos que nos apoyen con ese movimiento del dinero que están dando para podernos ayudar a los vendedores.
And thank you for all your support. I really hope you can support us with the money you have for the street vendors.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller ending in 4862, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Moving on. Right here. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Warren. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Bueno.
Por favor, dígame su nombre y los artículos del cual va a hablar.
Sí, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es María Martínez.
¿De qué artículo
My name is
habla?
Maria Martinez.
Artículo 1 y 2.
I will be
Le voy a
talking
dar un
about
minuto
item
por
number
cada
1
uno.
and 2.
Sí, mire, apoyo el código municipal 1 y 2. A mí me gustaría que se cambiara la extensión a julio 1 del 2021.
I would like to say that I support the municipal code items 1 and 2, but I would like to request an extension in order for the vending permit to be extended to July 1st, 2021.
También me gustaría que no hubiera costo del permiso por lo menos hasta este fin de año, porque en realidad...
I would like to request the permit be free until the end of the year.
Porque en realidad con este problema de la pandemia, aunque hemos tratado de a algunos salir a trabajar, en realidad la gente no está consumiendo, no está haciendo compras.
Because in fact we're having some issues with this pandemic because people are not doing purchases and we have not been selling so much.
Es igual como si no saliéramos a trabajar.
So it's almost like if we were not going to work.
También necesitamos el apoyo monetario de la ciudad para poder tener el conocimiento, cómo educarnos con el nuevo cambio de los carros apropiados para poder tener los permisos de la ciudad.
We're also requesting the money support from the city in order for us to be educated about how to get the cars, the official cars for the vending, and have all the permits for us to work in the street vending.
De esa manera, nosotros podríamos trabajar de acuerdo a los requisitos que nos requiere la ciudad.
In that way, we could work according to the requirements that the city is requesting to us.
Eso es todo por el momento. Muchas gracias.
That's it for today. Thank you very much.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hello.
Hi, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. ¿Habla español?
Sí, hablo español.
¿Me da su nombre y cuáles artículos habla?
Creo que es del 1 al 2, me parece, o el 3, pero la verdad, por esto, mi llamada...
Permítame un segundo. Si es el 1 y el 2, le voy a dar un minuto por cada uno, ¿ok? Su tiempo comienza ya.
I will talk about items 1 and 2.
Por esto mi llamada es que se introduzca un permiso gratis a esto hasta el 31 de diciembre.
Calling in order to request a free permit until December 31st.
Porque la verdad yo soy vendedora ambulante y hasta ahorita no he podido trabajar.
Because I'm a street vendor that has not been able to work.
Y no podemos pagar renta. Y no tenemos un permiso ni tampoco un carrito para poder trabajar. Solamente nos han dicho que sí, pero no nos dicen cuándo. Por favor,
I cannot pay my expenses. I don't even have a car and a permit in order to work. They just say that they are going to give us one, but I have not been able to receive anything. Please help us.
Por favor, ayúdenos porque necesitamos. No tenemos de otro lado donde poder trabajar.
Please help us because this is my only way to receive an income with the street vending.
Necesitamos de ustedes.
We really need something from you.
Por favor, no se olviden de nosotros.
Please don't forget
porque
us.
también somos seres humanos que también necesitamos sobrevivir.
Because we're also human beings that need to survive.
Por favor y muchas gracias.
Please and thank you.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hello?
Caller, please state your names and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Yeah, my name is Sergio Jimenez, and it's for Article 1 and 2.
You get a minute for each item.
Let me know when.
Go ahead and start.
Hi, my name is Sergio Jimenez. I'm a member of Community Power Collective and the LA Street Vendor Campaign. I'm calling to highlight the importance of Articles 1 and 2, and I think they're good points that will benefit the economy. But while we're positive about the cost of the permit being pushed until July of 2021, we must also take into account that many vendors today don't have the money to support this initiative of having to pay $291 when they haven't worked since March. We're advocating that the vending permit is free until December of this year so that the working vending class can uplift their micro businesses now without having to get into more economic debt. And tied to this successful uplifting of the vending and the LA economy is the investment by the city and the county in the design, the manufacture, and distribution of a Department of Public Health approved low-cost cart that is the main point of conflict that allows for abuse.
Your minute for item 2 begins now.
Discrimination and the continued exploitation of the vending class because there's too much enforcement to those vendors that want to vend legally but can't move beyond the merchandise permit that doesn't allow to be used for food vending. The cart design, the manufacture, and distribution is key for vendors to sell in peace. But we also want to advocate that education and not enforcement is also key for the vending community to thrive. Vendors want to work within the law, but it's hard to attempt to thrive in that environment when the only thing they're getting is tickets, warnings, threats of confiscation, criminal citations that can jeopardize the immigration process. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
And Genevieve, was that the last caller? Councilmember Price, I believe that was the end of public comment.
Okay, I want to thank all folks who called in. I want to thank them for their comments. We certainly appreciate them, and I know that we're taking those concerns to heart. Having closed the public comment.
And 1 second, I'm in contact with Genevieve, so hold on. I need to clarify something very quickly.
I understand we have a couple more comments.
What I need to do is I need to connect it one more time.
Okay.
You have not entered any numbers. Please followed by pound. You are in the meeting now. There are 8 participants in the meeting. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6.
And Genevieve, can you hear me now?
You are unmuted.
Genevieve, can you hear me now? Hello, Genevieve?
Michael, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, you're connected.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, can you please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on?
Aló, buenas tardes, ¿me escucha?
Sí, buenas tardes. ¿Me puede dar su nombre y los artículos de cuál va a hablar?
Ok. Mi nombre es Faustino Martínez, soy vendedor ambulante aquí del sur centro de Los Ángeles y
¿Y cuáles
representando
son
a
los
todos
artículos de cuál va a hablar?
de la ayuda que está de los 5 millones.
Ok, so le daré un minuto por ese artículo.
Ok,
Hi,
está bien.
Hi, my name is Agustino Martinez. I'm going to talk about item 1 and 2 about the $5 million.
Estoy hablando en representación de todos mis compañeros vendedores ambulantes para que nos apoyen con esa economía de los 5 millones para los carritos adecuados para vender comida.
I'm speaking on behalf of all street vendors in order for you to request support for the cars for us to sell food.
Necesitamos ese apoyo para que ustedes agilicen ese apoyo porque en verdad lo necesitamos para trabajar en unidad junto con las leyes de aquí de Los Ángeles.
We really need your support in order for us to work united and according to the laws of LA.
Nosotros los vendedores no nos oponemos a nada, únicamente queremos trabajar hombro a hombro con la ley de Los Ángeles.
Street vendors are not against the law. We only want to work and according to the laws of the city.
Por eso pedimos este apoyo de esos 5 millones de dólares para que nosotros tengamos nuestros carritos adecuados conforme la ciudad lo requiere.
That's why we are requesting your support of the $5 million for us to have our official cars as the city is requesting us to have.
Para que así nosotros podamos trabajar tranquilos, en paz y trabajar junto con la ciudad porque por esta pandemia nosotros no podemos trabajar.
In that way we can work appropriately and peaceful because due to the pandemic we have not been able to work so far.
Pues es bonito que nosotros obedezcamos que la ley dice quédate en casa, pero lamentablemente ahorita nosotros no podemos porque tenemos que pagar biles, renta y comida para la familia.
I know that the law says stay home, but as unfortunately we cannot do that because we have expenses to pay. We have to pay the rent, food, and bills.
Le queda un minuto para su segundo artículo.
Está bien. Entonces, por eso necesitamos para que nosotros podamos que nos apoyen de esa manera, para que nosotros tengamos la oportunidad de seguir vendiendo en las aceras.
That's why I'm here to request your support so we can have the opportunity to continue with the street vending.
Y tener los carritos adecuados para que nosotros podamos trabajar bien y por esta pandemia no, y también del BCS que sea consciente de que nos está hostigando porque sabiendo que nosotros no podemos tener esos carritos.
And also I would like to say that we are going to work appropriately and request the cars, and also I would like to mention that the BSS is like bothering us because we don't have the permits on the cars.
Que sí nos dejen trabajar así para que nosotros podamos trabajar y que el permiso ahorita que sea gratis de aquí a diciembre todo este año.
In that way we can work according to the law, and I would also like to request the permit to be free until the end of the year.
Eso es lo que pido a nombre de todos mis compañeros vendedores. Muchísimas gracias y esperemos la atención que nos faciliten.
That's what I'm requesting on behalf of all street vendors. I hope you can support us, and thank you.
Gracias a todos.
Thank you, everyone.
Hello?
Speaker, state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. ¿Me da su nombre y los artículos cuál va a hablar? Bueno, ¿está ahí?
Sí, buenas tardes.
¿Me puede dar su nombre, por favor, y cuáles son los artículos de cuál va a hablar?
Señorita.
Ok, ¿y cuál va a hablar?
Yo estoy hablando, soy vendedora ambulante también. Y nosotros ahorita no tenemos para
¿De cuál
renta.
artículo va a hablar, señora? ¿Del primero?
Del primero de los carritos que nos otorguen para poder trabajar.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Alma Andrade. I'm going to talk about item number 1, about the card.
Sí, señor. Y nosotros queremos trabajar y a ver si nos otorgan los carritos. Aparte de eso, señor, que se compadezcan de nosotros, porque no queremos ya tickets y queremos estar trabajando.
We really want to work. We would like to ask your support in order for us to have the cards. We don't want any more tickets, and we really want to work.
Y con esta pandemia no tenemos dinero para nosotros, para salir adelante. Así que si nos permiten trabajar todavía, que sea con los carritos que tenemos, mientras nos otorgan los otros carritos, porque nosotros necesitamos la ayuda. No tenemos ni para comer, oiga.
Because due to the pandemic, we have not been able to work. We don't have money to buy food, and I would like to request that we can work even with the old cars, even though we don't have the new ones, but we are requesting your support on this.
Y con esta pandemia no tenemos ni para, por ejemplo, nosotros no tenemos para salir adelante, ni para pagar los permisos.
It has been really hard for us with this pandemic because we don't have money to survive, not even to pay the permits.
Es todo lo que les puedo decir y gracias por todo y espero que nos otorguen los carritos para podernos a trabajar ya con permiso, por favor.
So
Se
that's
lo
all I have
suplicamos
to say.
de la manera más atenta.
I really beg you that you can give us the permits and also the cars so we can continue working.
Nosotros queremos trabajar y queremos colaborar con taxes, con todo, con el gobierno, estar bien con ellos. Que nos den los permisos, por favor, porque no tenemos nosotros recursos, no tenemos para comer, no tenemos nada de dinero ni para trabajar. Por favor, a ver si se compadecen de ayudarnos.
We really want to work according to the city law because we don't have money. We really want to work, and we are really asking your support on this.
Es todo, gracias.
That's it.
Feliz tarde.
Good afternoon.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Fernando Abarca, and I will be giving public comment on items 1 and 2 and general public comment.
Okay, you get 1 minute for each item and 1 for public general comment.
Thank you. Street vendors have been one of the hardest hit populations in our city as a result of COVID. They have been unable to work and sustain their families due to stay-at-home orders, which has effectively eliminated their income. Vendors who have chosen to work out of need have unfortunately been criminalized and met with fines and tickets. This is deeply harmful for a population whose needs have been neglected throughout the recovery process. Fees and fines, in addition to the rent debt and other bills piling up, are undeadening vendors instead of setting them up to recover as we should be doing. Because of this, I urge the city to waive the permit fees for vendors through to the end of the year and refund vendors who had already paid for the permit prior to the shutdown. Costs for the permits are an economic barrier that limit the number of vendors that are able to access the program. The success of the vending program rests within the powers of the city and its willingness to waive permit fees through the end of the year. It is one of the ways that the city can support street vendors immediately with little to no cost to the city at all. We need to support our most in need populations, and this is a great investment in the people who have for decades provided an essential service for the communities that have provided an essential service to the communities that had limited access to fresh and healthy food options. Thank you so much for your time.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller ending in 4862, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Aló, mi nombre es Oscar Aldana.
¿Cuáles artículos va a hablar?
El número 1 de los 5 millones.
Le daré un minuto. Por favor, comience.
Hi, my name is Oscar Aldana. I'm going to talk about item number 1 of the $5 million.
Sí, estoy apoyando la ayuda de los 5 millones para los carritos, para los vendedores ambulantes que nos proporcionen los 5 millones para poder obtener esos carritos para trabajar conforme la ley lo pide.
I'm supporting the $5 million fund in order for us to have the vending cards so we can work according to the law.
Y les pido también que nos permitan trabajar ahorita con lo que tenemos para mientras nos proporcionen la ayuda de los carritos.
I'm also requesting that we can continue working with what we have and also to get the support of the vending cards.
Porque nosotros necesitamos trabajar porque no tenemos para pagar renta, biles y para comida para la familia.
Because we really need to work. We don't have money to pay our expenses, the bills, the food for the family.
Y para así trabajar de acuerdo a lo que la ciudad nos exige, ya teniendo los carritos, pues nosotros nos ponemos al día con los permisos.
In that way, we can work according to the city law. Once we have the vending cards, we can be up to date with the permits also.
Y que por favor extiendan el costo de los permisos que sea gratis todo este año hasta el mes de diciembre.
I'm also requesting for the permit to be free until the end of the year, December 31st.
Sería solamente.
That's it.
Ya sería todo lo que tendría que decirles.
Gracias.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Caller, please state your name. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller ending in 7270, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller ending in 6523, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Rosa Villaverde.
Okay, ¿qué artículos va a hablar?
El número 1 y el número 2.
Le voy a dar un minuto por cada uno. Por favor, comience.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosa Villaverde. I'm going to talk about item number 1 and 2.
Miren, queríamos pedir, nosotros apoyamos necesitamos un cambio en el código.
We are requesting a change in the municipal code.
¿Verdad? Solicitarles también que nos den un apoyo a la extensión para no pagar lo que es el permiso hasta el finales del año, el 31 de diciembre, y que se extienda hasta el 1 de julio de 2021.
We're also requesting your support in order for the permit to be free until December 31st and this to be extended until July 1st, 2021.
Muchos de nuestros compañeros, la verdad es que no han podido trabajar. Y lo que hemos intentado trabajar, empezamos a recibir nuevos tickets.
Many of our partners have not been able to work, and the ones that were able to work started to get some tickets.
Lo que ha conllevado a que muchas personas estén endeudadas con rentas, con biles de luz, agua, gas, etc.
And this has caused for us to be in debt about the bills, electricity, gas, etc.
Por eso la necesidad de que introducir un permiso gratis hasta el 31 de diciembre, como les dije anteriormente.
That's why we really need the permit to be free until December 31st, as I mentioned before.
A la vez necesitamos que nos den como seminarios de educación en cuanto a los que venden comida, los que venden fruta, etcétera, para hacerlo de la forma correcta y mandado por la ley.
In the same way, we are requesting that we have education, the street vendors that sell fruits, food. In that way, we can do it according to the law.
La otra cosa muy necesaria, que es un problema que le hemos venido viendo no ahorita, sino desde hace mucho tiempo, en esta lucha que se ha tenido,
Me queda un minuto para su segundo artículo.
Okay, mientras la ciudad no tome el tiempo para diseñar un carro apropiado de no alto costo, va a ser muy difícil para los vendedores, porque o sea, lo poquito que podamos recoger lo tenemos que pagar en tickets.
Another thing that I would like to bring up to your attention is that as long as the city has not taken the time to design an appropriate vending card, it's going to be really difficult for us to comply with the law.
La ciudad de Los Ángeles es una ciudad de muchos inmigrantes y es algo que nos va a beneficiar a ambos. Por un lado, nosotros los vendedores vamos a vender tranquilas, todo de acuerdo a la ley, lo establecido tanto por el Ministerio de Salud, por la ciudad en sí.
And I think that the city of LA is a city of immigrants, and there are a lot of street vendors. And that's why we are requesting that. In that way, we can sell our products appropriately with this vending card and according to the law, according to the regulations of the Department of Health as well.
Lo que conlleva también a un beneficio para la ciudad, porque todos, sin excepción, vamos a pagar impuestos, lo que ayuda a mejorar la ciudad cada día más.
And this is also a benefit for the city because we are all going to pay taxes, and that is going to improve our city.
Englobando las dos cosas, hay la necesidad de que nos apoyen en cuanto a la aprobación de los $5 millones para que los vendedores podamos optar, tener esa pequeña opción.
And that's why we are requesting that the $5 million be approved so we can have that option.
Muchísimas gracias, eso es todo. Espero que por favor le pongan un poquito de corazón al pedido de tanta gente que tenemos que vender en la calle y que tenemos familias que mantener. Muchas gracias.
That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. I hope you can do something for us, for all the street vendors, that we have families to support. Thank you very much.
Caller, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Lyric Kelker, and I'm speaking on items 1 and 2.
You get a minute for each item. Please start.
Great, thank you. Hi, good afternoon, members of the Economic Development Committee. My name is Lyric Kelker, and I'm with Inclusive Action for the City and a member of the LA Street Vendor Campaign. First, I'd like to say thank you for the leadership from this committee to commit to supporting these micro-entrepreneurs. All of you have been integral in ensuring the success of vendors across the city, and now is another opportunity to further that work. Vendors are facing deep hardship. Like many other businesses in Los Angeles, except many of the street vendors are some of the lowest income entrepreneurs. They too have bills to pay, such as rent and electricity, while also having a very difficult time working because of the number of different policies that are affecting street vending broadly. Recently, the Needed Alfresco program that does a great job of supporting brick and mortar businesses was extended through the end of the year, ensuring that those businesses have access to open sidewalks at no cost to them. I request that you give the same courtesy to street vendors who are the original outdoor dining option. Please waive their permit fees through the end of the year and refund those who have paid for a permit.
A minute on item.
Great, thank you. Further, as you consider the needed extension of the lower permit fee, that must be paired with robust outreach and education to ensure the safety of vendors, their customers, and the surrounding businesses. To reiterate, I have 2 recommendations for the committee: to waive permit fees for vendors through the end of the year, matching the brick and mortar businesses participating in the Alfresco program, and prepare the extended lower permit costs with robust education and outreach. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate the leadership from this committee.
Councilman, there's no more calls on the line.
Okay, we're going to close public comment, and again, I want to thank everyone who called in with their comments, thoughts, suggestions, ideas. We appreciate them all. We are going to move members.
Goodbye.
Members will move if there's no objection. Items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9 on consent. Being no objection, that will be the order.
And Councilmember Price, would you like me to take a roll call vote on those items?
Yes, please.
So this is roll call vote for items 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9. Councilmember Price?
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino? Councilmember Buscaino?
Sorry, aye.
And Councilmember Rodriguez?
Aye.
Those items are approved.
Okay, excellent. Can you read items 1 and 2? into the record, please.
Yes, item number 1 is a report from the City Attorney and Ordinance relative to amending the Los Angeles Municipal Code to extend the reduced cost of a vending operating permit until July 1st, 2021. And item number 2 is a report from the Board of Public Works relative to the Sidewalk and Park Vending Program, permit extension and fee deferment. And this was heard in Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee on June 12, 2020, and they approved this matter as amended.
Okay, we certainly heard from our vending community about the concerns, legitimate concerns about the impact of the COVID, the pandemic on street vending. And I know that we are proposing some actions to assist. Let's ask for a report from Streets LA. You can chime in, David, on the status of the program and how many permits have been issued and what types of permits have been issued on street vending at this time.
Hi, good afternoon. David Rivera, Streets LA Investigation Enforcement Division. I'm here to report on the status for the permit extension and fee deferment. As you know, the program launched this year, January 2nd, 2020. To date, we have a total of 688 permits for street vending, and including parks. 78 are for food, and the remaining 610 are for merchandise. Due to the COVID pandemic, it has made it difficult for all businesses, including the vendors, to succeed. Today, sidewalk vending is allowed. Although the parks are still closed, vending is still open for business. What we're doing now during this COVID epidemic is we're focusing on avoiding the congregating and safe distancing and safe hygiene for the staff and for the clientele for these vendors. With the challenge of COVID, we also have a report, and we're still able to issue the permits right now, although our public counters are closed, but we are doing it by appointment only, so the vendors still can come and get their vending permits. So right now we have that report in front of you. It recommends providing some relief to the vendors who want to be legal participants in the program. Some of the challenges we see is the difficulty for the food vendors to get permits from county health. There's some limitations on our enforcement authority. And now cuts with the city budgets have reduced positions in our vending unit and reduced resources at the business source centers to assess the vendors. So these are the type of issues we're continuing to discuss with our stakeholders group, which we meet with monthly. And I know Marissa is represented in those meetings as well. So if you have any questions, I can go ahead and answer those if you need.
So what's the relief that's being proposed? David, would you make that clear again, please?
I'm sorry, Councilman?
What's the relief that's being proposed to assist the street vendors at this time? You referenced a lower fee?
Yes, maintaining the lower fee of the $291 through December 31st, 2020.
And what about deferrals?
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
We haven't actually done that yet, sir.
Okay. And what success have we had with the county? The problems associated with processing have been identified at the county level as well.
Well, we're continuing to have the monthly stakeholder meetings. I know they are working on trying to make the process easier, a little less costly for the vendors. They're looking into trying to obtain someone to make a cart or come up with some plans for carts to sell that the vendors can obtain so they can continue their services. Sort of like a pilot program, sir.
And what are we doing to educate the vendors?
We're continuing to go out, speak to them on a daily basis with our group here, reaching out, issuing pamphlets, any way we can have assist them. We also are starting to do a program now that we're passing out PPE to some of the locations where the staff doesn't have, the vending staff don't have masks and that sort of thing, and we're going to reach out to them and issue them masks.
Okay, members, any questions? Monica, Joe, any questions?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to move that we approve the city attorney draft ordinance for item 1 and concur with recommendations of the Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee for item 2.
Excuse me, Councilman Price. This
Yes.
is Deputy City Attorney Basha Jankowski. I would like to ask for a clarification. The ordinance before you today, which you have recommending approving and moving. July 1st, 2021 as the extension for the $291 reduced fee permit. I believe Bureau of Street Services just recommended extending the $291 reduced fee permit until December 31st, 2020. So that conflicts with the current ordinance before you. So my recommendation would be if the date of December 31st instead of July 1st, 2020 is what this committee is recommending, then the ordinance should not be approved and move forward to council.
Okay, hold on. I think there may be some misunderstanding. Yeah, Street LA did not make that recommendation. We're moving forward with the recommendation as presented.
Councilman Price, are you
Yes.
talking about the Public Works or Gang Reduction Committee?
I'm talking about item 1 and concurring with the recommendation for item 2. We're accepting the draft ordinance as presented in item 1 and concurring with the recommendation of the Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee for item 2. Does that clarify it? Does that clarify it for you?
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure the councilman's intent is that the July 1st, 2021 date for the extension of the fee be adopted.
Is that in the
ordinance?
Ordinance, and then yes, we do approve it.
That's the recommendation.
That's the recommendation that we're approving.
Okay, thank you so much for the clarification.
Thank you for your question. So if there's no objection, we will approve the city attorney draft ordinance for item 1, and we will concur with the recommendation of the Public Works and Gang Reduction Committee for item 2. Mr. Espinoza, do we need to take a vote on that?
Councilmember Price?
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino?
Aye.
And Councilmember Rodriguez?
Aye.
Both items number 1 and number 2 pass as approved.
Okay, thank you. We've been joined by Councilman Mitchell Farrell, and I promised him we would take up item 8 at this time. Mitchell, you still on? Oh, there you are.
I am, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Espinoza, item 8, please.
Item 8 is a report from the Chief Legislative Analyst relative to the status of an ordinance to limit third-party food delivery service fees.
Okay, this is coming back for important discussion and update. Mr. CLA, are you with us? So, Mitch, yeah, I know excuse me, Mitch, I know you had some interest in. You want to make a comment before we hear the report?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair and colleagues. This is about extending the emergency ordinance that we adopted nearly 3 months ago, which puts a limit on the fees that delivery apps can charge restaurants for delivery and takeout. Local restaurants were impacted by exorbitant delivery app fees long before the pandemic struck. Most restaurants who've utilized these apps have done so knowing there is either no profit or very little profit in paying for this service. And this is all pre-COVID. The use of delivery apps was often thought of as a price for doing business because the use of apps can help grow a customer base through marketing or help keep regular customers loyal by delivering delicious meals to their home. This trade-off has been working because most income for restaurants has traditionally been generated when customers dine in. Now, in the last couple of years, these delivery apps really, because of the power of technology, formed a bit of a monopoly on enabling restaurants to function to their full potential as it relates to delivery. However, at the same time, it really removed their ability to make real profit from this type of sale. Then came COVID-19. The pandemic really did lay bare the vulnerabilities of restaurants having to rely on these delivery app services, because restaurants went from having just a fraction of their sales for delivery to between 70 and 90% of their sales for delivery. From in-store sales to the delivery sales being upwards of 90%, in some cases even more, making them even more reliant on the services and completely at the mercy of these third-party delivery apps. But what hasn't changed is the restaurant's inability to turn a profit on delivery using the app. It is for these early June, this council approved an emergency ordinance to limit the delivery app fees to no more than 15% per order and no more than 5% for all non-food delivery services related to any restaurant establishment or service. Delivery apps are funded by venture capital investors to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Their individual net worths are in the billions of dollars. Out of the 4 delivery apps that have the biggest collective market share, 2 of them are publicly traded and the other 2 have filed for their initial IPOs. Increased sales and revenue drive up the market share and by extension, their stock price and their investors demand a high rate of return. 2 of the delivery apps mentioned have CEOs that make over $9 million a year in total compensation. One makes into the tens of millions of dollars a year. This is not a criticism of investing in the stock market or technology companies or startups that depend on venture capital to be successful. Anyone who has a retirement portfolio, as we all know, is an investor, and that includes most city employees. Society benefits from innovative technologies, but only if there are checks and balances. So this emergency ordinance that we adopted back in early June provided that balance and helped level the playing field, and it needs to continue. According to a Yelp economic impact report from last month, 60% of restaurants that have temporarily closed because of COVID-19 have closed for good. They're not reopening. To understand the impact of the ordinance, our own EWDD and CLA conducted a survey with results that overwhelmingly support the continuation of the ordinance. Of the restaurants surveyed, nearly 73% reported the ordinance has been beneficial during the pandemic, and about 95% of the restaurants reported that they would like the ordinance to be extended beyond the August 31st deadline that is pending. And this is what's very unsettling with the survey. Found that nearly the same percentage of restaurants still experience delivery apps in some instances overcharging the 15% delivery fee, and 55, almost 60%, 56% rather, of restaurants experienced being overcharged the 5% additional non-delivery fee. Keep in mind that the state penal code section 396 addresses price gouging during local, state, and federal emergencies as a crime. Violations can result in criminal prosecution, jail, restitution, and a $2,500 fine per violation. So if you're a delivery app and you're doing your business in the city of Los Angeles, keep in mind that as we seek to extend this and protect our neighborhood restaurants and help keep them open during the pandemic, if you find that you're in violation of Penal Code 396, that could add up to a very, very hefty fine if you're not in compliance. That's why, in addition to recommending the continuation of the ordinance until after the state emergency is lifted in LA, the CLA also recommends that the city attorney should prepare additional amendments to better enforce this ordinance, like monetary pay structures and a reporting mechanism for restaurants. Just like they needed in June, restaurants still need us, especially our locally owned restaurants, to survive this pandemic. Unfortunately, we know we are not close to fully and safely reopening our restaurants to full capacity. That's why alternatives like LA's alfresco dining options are really great. And I know that we're looking in other sort of ways that we can help food and restaurants and bars to stay open. We cannot be a one-size-fits-all, because some of these amenities like alfresco do not work for some of our restaurants for a variety of reasons, but we hope more will take advantage. The bottom line is this amenity needs to continue during the emergency. Again, it's not a permanent ordinance or a perfect solution, but the report outlines that restaurants overwhelmingly want this ordinance to be extended. Many of them say that this is their lifeline. By continuing the ordinance, the emergency order lifts, we need to do our part to provide some hope for survival for our locally owned restaurants. And keep in mind that pre-COVID, restaurants, food establishments, bars, nightclubs employed 1 out of every 10 workers in the city of Los Angeles. So that calculation has already changed indefinitely. So this is a jobs ordinance. So, Mr. Chair, committee members, I thank you so much for letting me lean in for a few minutes here during your committee hearing. But based on the CLA report and our current state of emergency and the conversations and feedback that my office has continued to engage in over the past few months, I'd like us to adopt the recommendation and extend this ordinance to continue the 15% delivery cap, 5% cap on non-delivery fees, and something else we did is we protected the delivery drivers of the delivery app companies by ensuring that they keep 100% of the customer tips. And so we need to keep all workers in mind, the ones who work in restaurants and the ones who deliver for these apps, and keep the remaining restaurants that haven't closed for good open and functioning during and after COVID. So again, thank you for your time, colleagues, and I hope we can extend this and give the continued relief that our restaurants so desperately need. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. O'Farrell, for your comments and your leadership. I certainly enjoyed working with you as we crafted this response. We certainly want to protect not only the public, but the drivers as well, and the restaurants. So let's bring in the CLA and the city attorney. The councilman referenced a survey that was done. Actually, it's in your report. Can you talk a little bit about that survey and where the restaurants were located?
Yes, this is Alex Whitehead with the Office of the Chief Legislative Analyst. I'm not sure I have with me the information on the locations of these restaurants. We could deliver that to the council at the request, or to the committee at their request. There were 59 restaurants that were served.
Tell us how many you surveyed and what that survey resulted in.
So we surveyed 59 restaurants, we sent the survey out and received 59 responses. Of these restaurants that responded, we had 72.9 of the restaurants reported being overcharged to the 15% delivery fee. 55.9 of the restaurants reported being overcharged to the 5% additional benefits fee. 72.9% of the restaurants report that the ordinance has been beneficial during COVID, and 94.9% of the restaurants would like the ordinance to be extended past the deadline of August 31st, 2020 at this moment. We also had some responses stating that when restaurants would try to go to these companies, they would not have very successful communications in terms of trying to get their issues resolved when there were obvious instances of failure to comply with the ordinance.
Okay. Your report notes that the ordinance will be expiring at the end of the month, and I think it was clearly the intent of the council that it would expire 9 days after the dining had resumed again. Can you clarify that for us at all?
Right. So that actually is the case. Just prior to the adoption of the ordinance on May 29th, 2020, Governor Gavin Newsom and subsequently the Board of Supervisors of the county lifted the prohibition of on-premises dining, which triggered the expiration of the ordinance, which then occurs on August 31st. Unfortunately, on July 1st, 2020, these restrictions were re-implemented, forcing the prohibition of on-premises dining again to combat the rapid spread of COVID-19. So while we're in the same position, the ordinance did not take into effect the possibility of the prohibition being reinstated. So currently, our recommendation is that we extend the ordinance to a time when the city of Los Angeles is no longer under a locally declared state of emergency, which it will much more likely tie into when we will have a more permanent state of on-premises dining not being prohibited anymore.
All right, members, any questions? Mrs. Rodriguez? Mr. Buscano?
So,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I can you hear me?
Yes.
If I can, has there been and thank you, Mr. O'Farrell, for taking the lead on this. I kind of questioned one point the validity of the survey. So what I did personally, I reached out to a couple of our restaurateurs in the downtown San Pedro area, and they pretty much fell in line with what was reported out. They would have prefer to extend this and as long as possible because of the fees that these companies are charging. I do, however, I wanted to make sure that we as the local government, it's not an overreach to these delivery companies. So I'm happy to extend this. I would feel more comfortable since we don't have an economic analysis moving forward to have a clear sunset date. But was there a sort of economic analysis, or is there plans for that moving forward? I mean, if we are going to continue this ordinance, I'd like to know that this is indeed helping the businesses stay open and not severely compromising other businesses or food delivery app companies.
We can definitely build that into our future reporting. We plan on doing a similar survey going forward to see how the improved ordinance will, take effect in the city. So we could also add that reporting element of economic impact.
That would be helpful. I know Ms. Hull is on the call here. I just want to be clear that we do have to find ways to continue to assist restaurants. I'm happy to see the alfresco program moving forward. It was introduced a motion today by Mr. Rue to extend that permanently. Our dining platforms in downtown San Pedro is just a hit, and I'm hearing from the restaurants there that they've been very successful. But clearly, we need real support in the form of grants and loans for our small businesses and restaurants. So I'm hoping that we can focus on expanding these types of programs, and EWDD has been championing such incredible programs, which I'll continue to support. So with that, those are my comments, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Busciano, again, for your comments and for your leadership on this issue as well. Valerie, any thoughts about making sure we're taking actions that are consistent with the intent of the council, and how can we make sure if this extends beyond the August, assuming that it will now, how can we make sure we're going to be able to approve the extension?
Well, there are different options for a sunset date. The current proposal is to tie it to the state of local emergency, because once that's lifted, there will be some assurance that not just restaurants, but the local economies will be closer to back to normal. Another option would be to tie it to a restaurant being able lawfully to open indoor dining to 100% capacity. One concern is there might be a stage during this emergency when, because of inclement weather during the fall or winter, there is some indoor dining allowed, but it's not at full capacity. Say it's at 20% or 50% capacity with a lot of social distancing inside. That's still going to make restaurants very reliant on delivery services. So I think the intent of the council is to make sure this ordinance stays in place to level the playing field until restaurants are no longer dependent on delivery services as one of their major sources of food sales. So those are the options. I think using the date when the local emergency is over and that declaration is lifted is one way, or you could tie it to resumption of indoor dining at full capacity.
The recommendation is?
Either is legal, and I think it's more a question of ensuring that we don't have the situation we find ourselves in now, where it looked like everything was back to normal, and then there was a resurgence, and then the council has to weigh back in. So one would hope that a declaration of emergency would not be lifted until it was clear there wasn't going to be a resurgence. The other thing you could ask for in terms of an amendment would be to ensure that if there is a resurgence and a new closure order occurs after a reopening order like we had in this situation, that the sunset clause would be nullified.
Mitch, do you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, thanks, Joe, and thank you, Madam Attorney. So what you're saying is a complete lifting of the local emergency would more or less equate with the ending of the pandemic, right? Which would mean the emergency is lifted, restaurants could go to full capacity, and the emergency's over. So we might be a ways from that. Now, so that's one way of looking at it. The other companion to that is easing restrictions, like what happened when we partially allowed indoor dining with adequate distancing. So most dining rooms in restaurants weren't even at 50% once those regulations were in place. So that didn't result in full dining capacity. So I think we would be in good shape, Mr. Chair, either way, if we amended the ordinance in readopting it to either say a lifting of the local emergency 90 days after, or 90 days after easing restrictions to the degree that we could allow full indoor dining capacity 90 days after that as well. So I think it's a matter of syntax, if you will. But I think the 90-day relief, whether it's full dining capacity or lifting of local emergency, you're going to accomplish the same thing and give the kind of relief to the restaurants that we are looking for.
Mr. O'Farrell, if I can, why the 90 days? If you can just walk me through that. Is it in the event we see a spike in cases within that time frame?
I think it's
30 days or 60 days. Just throwing it out.
Yeah, I think it's consistent with other easing of restrictions based on the pandemic. And also keep in mind that the restaurants, even though they're hanging there by a shoestring, some of them have had to reduce their staff by 90%, 80%, 50%. So it's going to take a while for recovery. So say on a dime, business was booming all of a sudden. It's still going to take a while for these restaurants, for these small businesses to get their, full sort of financial health back, if you will. So I would suggest that easing of the restrictions, we want to give a good 3-month buffer so that the restaurants, the businesses themselves can do some recovering before we, let these delivery apps go back to charging 25, 35% per delivery. It'll take some time. Also, it'll take some time for the general public to get comfortable again, to start venturing out. Maybe that means there is a treatment or a vaccine of sorts that gives some protection. And maybe that's what it will start to look like as the emergency order gets lifted or as restrictions get lifted. So in other words, it's some buffer time to extend some economic and financial help back to these small businesses so they can hire back and bring employees that have been laid off back to work.
Councilman, this is John Wickham with the CLA's office. This also gives your EWDD and CLA time to evaluate whether there's been a change in the economic condition and allow the council to make a determination whether you want to make any changes to the ordinance, remove it, fix it. It just, the 3-month buffer gives you the opportunity to remain active in this effort and to seek any changes from the city attorney, et cetera.
Comments? All right, then I'm going to propose that we approve the CLA report recommendation number 2 and amend the recommendation 1 to prepare and present an amendment to limit on third-party food delivery service fees ordinance number 186665 to extend the expiration date from August the 1st, 2020 to 90 days after the city of Los Angeles permits on-premises indoor dining again. And to clarify that if restrictions are put back in place, then the 90-day period resets.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And would that include full capacity dining?
That's a good question. As opposed to some percentage of indoor dining. Well, again, I think initially the thought was it would be 100%, but that's maybe subject to some interpretation or.
Well, we would like that clarification now, and I did think that the intent was that it be when restaurants can resume at their maximum capacity. Correct. And 90 days thereafter.
Okay, well, I think that's our understanding then. All right, well, is there any more discussion or comment on this recommendation?
Again, Ms. Forrest, can you just verify what we're voting on?
Yes, it would be to approve item number 1 in the CLA's report, and on item number 2 to approve with the amendment that the current a sunset date in the ordinance of August 31st, 2020 be amended to 90 days after restaurants are able to resume indoor dining capacity at 100% and that the ordinance would be in effect at any point if the restaurants are once again required to reduce indoor capacity due to the COVID virus.
Okay, that is the recommendation. Mr. Espinoza, I think we're ready to vote.
Yes, Councilmember Price,
Aye.
Councilmember Buscaino,
Aye.
and Councilmember Rodriguez.
Aye.
That item is approved as amended.
Okay, thank you, members. Let's go now to item 3. Mr. Espinoza, please.
Item number 3 is the last item on our agenda, and it's a verbal update from the Economic and Workforce Development Department on the Small Business Emergency Loan Program and the Los Angeles Regional Relief and Recovery Fund.
Good afternoon, council members. Carolyn Hall, the General Manager of EWDD. How are you?
Good afternoon, Carolyn. Good to see you today.
Good to see you.
This is a program we all have a great interest in, and is dramatically impacting our businesses, especially small, medium-sized businesses. What news do you have for us today?
Okay, let's jump right into it. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding the expansion of the LA Regional COVID Relief and Recovery Fund, which we'll call the Regional Fund, just to make it easier, and the establishment of the COVID-19 Child Care Relief and Recovery Fund. We are recommending transferring up to $40 million in CARES dollars to the regional fund to be deployed as grants to small businesses and nonprofits. In addition, we are recommending up to $10 million in CARES funds be deployed as grants specifically to child care providers directly through EWDD and third-party consultants. I'd like to remind the members of the committee that the LA COVID Regional Relief Fund, the regional fund, was established as a partnership between the city and county of Los Angeles, along with philanthropy and other institutions, to provide needed financial support to small businesses and nonprofits throughout the region. The Local Initiative Support Corporation, LISC, was selected as the fund administrator. The regional fund was developed to deploy funds in 2 phases. Phase 1, grants, and Phase 2 would be loans. In this discussion, we're only considering and recommending a grant product. While there's demand for loans in the recovery phase, the immediate need is for grants. I think we've heard a great deal about our small businesses and how they've been impacted by the local emergency and the reemergence to have to close down our restaurants or indoor dining. The need for grants and the source of the fund, which are CARES dollars, has several requirements that make using it for loans a bit challenging without further direction from the federal government. As we know, and we've heard this time and time again, small businesses in Los Angeles are reeling from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the lack of business activity associated with the compliance with the Safer at Home order. In stable conditions, many small businesses have razor-thin profit margins, and none of them, or very few of them, are able to absorb a pandemic. An analysis conducted by the Boston Consulting Group shows that 70% of small businesses with 50 or fewer employees are expected to deplete their cash reserves by the end of this month. To compound the effects of the pandemic, recent public demonstrations have resulted in property damage to small businesses throughout the city. And while small businesses have been impacted, so has our nonprofit community, which has negatively been impacted with most enduring increased demand and declining revenues. While PPP has assisted many of the businesses in the city of Los Angeles, experience and recent studies have shown that federal disaster assistance do not help everyone, and many of our small businesses, especially those in vulnerable communities, were left out. In fact, street vendors and a large portion of micro-entrepreneurs have not been able to access federal dollars. The program, as we've established, is not first come, first served. Grant winners will be chosen through an online weighted lottery system. This was done to support the most vulnerable communities. Therefore, applicants and geographic locations that meet our established criteria will be weighted more heavily in the lottery system. And we've chosen indicators such as entities that are located in low and moderate income communities, small businesses and nonprofits with annual gross revenue below 500,000. We've looked at the Cal Enviro screen map communities with health hazards, which ranges above 90%. And we've also used a socioeconomic data composite score by city council district. And that composite score includes things like poverty rates, educational attainment, median income. The grants will be provided to micro entrepreneurs, small businesses, medium businesses, and nonprofits. However, nearly 60% of the funds will be allocated to small businesses with annual gross revenue of about between 100,000, over 100,000, but less than 1 million. We estimate that an allocation of about 39 million will go to the regional fund, will result in a minimum of 2,500 establishments receiving financial assistance by the close of the calendar year. And the part of also what we're saying is that we're also going to provide funding, a specific pool of money for childcare. During the current crisis, licensed childcare facilities within the city of Los Angeles have faced a unique set of challenges. So in our proposal, we are looking to provide childcare, to develop a program and implement a program to provide childcare providers with needed grant funds. We are recommending the use of 10 million in CARES dollars to be distributed to the various childcare facilities and programs. We are currently working with childcare experts to develop that program to determine the distribution that should be sent out and the amount of money that should go to the various childcare providers. And we will report back when that program is designed, but we intend to implement this rather rapidly. Preliminary research conducted by EWDD suggests that the grants amount should be structured based on license capacity of a particular facility. And we are in the middle of kind of creating that. And again, it will not be first come, first serve, and we will establish it in a similar way to our small business program to make sure that those in the most vulnerable communities get the most support. These programs are also kind of complement the initial program that we established through the council and with the mayor's support. We previously established a small business emergency loan program. And as of today, I believe we have funded over 500 loans in that small business emergency microloan program. And we have funded over $7 million of the 10.7 that was allocated. There's ongoing need for assistance with these small businesses. But however, as we've heard from numerous individuals, and studies have shown that our small businesses are still in a state of emergency, and we are recommending that the loan program be converted to a grant program, allowing applicants who have received an emergency small business loan to opt into converting it to a grant at the same amount as a previously approved loan. We are also further recommending a swapping of the sources of the fund. The initial funding that came for the program was from general funds and special revenues. We are recommending that we swap that to CARES funds. In other words, we replenish the general fund and use CARES dollars to convert the microloan program into a grant program. That's a summary of my recommendations, and I open it up for discussion and comments and questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for your report and for your commitment. Aside from the $10 million that we set aside for child care, didn't we set aside some monies for street vendors specifically? That was a issue that we had in items 1 and 2. Street vendors were complaining about the lack of funding, lack of assistance. And I thought we had identified some funds specifically for street vendors. Could you tell us how that plays out now, or is there a specific fund, or would they be in line for the small business fund, or?
Yeah, they are in line.
Participate.
Oh, there is a segment. I didn't go deeply into it, but we have categorized small businesses between micro entrepreneurs and small businesses and medium-sized businesses. Street vendors fall into the micro entrepreneur category, and 10% of the allocated funds will go toward assisting those individuals and organizations within that that micro entrepreneur category, which includes street vendors, those engaged in the gig economy, and others.
And again, for that category, it's not first come, first serve, but it'll be a weighted kind of allocation?
Absolutely. None of the categories are first come, first serve. Our experience has shown that in order to ensure that the funds go to those communities and organizations that are in the most vulnerable communities, we need to go through a weighted lottery system so that we can ensure that they are actually being part of the selection process. So the micro entrepreneurs, like every other category, will be part of that weighted lottery system that I just described.
And when is that lottery going to begin?
We are scheduled to start the lottery using the CARES dollars. Well, I should be clear. The regional fund has been opened for a couple of months or a month. We allocated $3.1 million. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. The city allocated $1 million toward a grant program. We closed out those first 3 rounds using general fund dollars. We are now, as of Monday, August 31st, is our scheduled opening of the regional fund with going from $1 million to $39 million for the city of Los Angeles.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, members?
Mr. Chair, I had a question. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Carolyn, for your comprehensive report. And something just to piggyback on Chairman's question on outreach and such, and making sure that our city vendors have access to these regional funds. But how are we offering the additional support that they may need with the application process?
Great question. And throughout this process, in fact, we learned a lot from the microloan program. Technical assistance is so critical.
Right,
and again, I mentioned that the regional fund is a collaboration with philanthropy. Several philanthropic organizations donated funding. So we have brought on a series of technical advisors who have been assisting and will continue to assist in the process of assisting individuals with the applications. Our business source centers are also being brought into the fold to provide technical assistance. The website and other material I don't know if the website's in a different language, but if you were to go to our website, all the collateral material are in several different languages, which is another critical issue. So to get to the heart of your issue or question, we have technical advisors in place to assist individuals. And it's clearly defined. We've been running webinars as well. We've done every week before we launch a round, spearheads a webinar for the technical advisors and for the public.
Thank you.
Councilmember Price, I believe you're muted.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Thank you. Any other questions, members? Again, Carolyn, I want to thank you and your team for stepping up and being so responsive to the needs of our business community, especially our small micro business community. Members, I'm going to recommend that we receive this report. And Carolyn, would you mind coming back to see us again in a month? Just to give us an update on where we are.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm happy to do it.
Okay, excellent. Okay, Mr. Chair, Mr. Clerk, what's our next item?
With that, the desk is clear.
All right, well, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.